all for being here. Thank you, Landon. Good morning, happy Friday. Quick recap of our agenda for the day, and then we can go ahead and get started. We're going to start with just our general updates from outreach, although today it looks like it's just path right now, so that's all right. And kind of just hear how it's been going in the Cacique area, how everything's looking, some needs that you're seeing, and then hopefully have a discussion around that. And then we'll hear from city staff and PD about some strategies that the city is hoping to deploy short-term and long-term to support the businesses and the region. And then we have a discussion about our RAP structure. So we'll recap how our RAPs are going for other regions and how those have been restructured and some successes there, and how we want to incorporate that into the Eastside RAP and get feedback from you all about that restructure. And then just move into some general updates before we close the meeting. But yeah, so that is our agenda for today. Hopefully other outreach providers jump in, but if not, Odin, you want to go ahead and just start us off with kind of your efforts in the last week and what you're seeing, and we'll go from there.
Gladly. Okay, so general path outreach updates. I now have 20 individuals on my program, up from 16 last time we talked, all of which I'm currently working to either get them doc ready, enrolled in a program, or increase their income. But because path has been at capacity for this while. Oh, question?
Oh, no, just clapping for the.
Oh, shoot. Thank you. Because path has been at capacity, my main focus has been on moving folks from the street and into nearby warming centers, or increasing their income through applying through general relief, Social Security, or social services. And in an effort to increase my success rate with getting individuals Social Security income, I've enrolled myself in SAMHSA's SOAR program, which will give me the complete knowledge of how the Social Security Administration processes applications. Just starting it out, but it's a 20-hour course that will, after completion, hopefully increase my odds of getting my clients approved during their first round of applications. Other outreach updates, I've focused most of my effort on the peoples in front of path and the underpasses to try and motivate them to either enter into detox, or if they're uninsured, encourage them to enroll in Medicaid at the public health clinics, including the one right in front of path. This weekend last, CityNet and I have engaged with individuals on the waterfront for Spanish-based outreach and at the Yaunanali labor line, with the latter being of principal importance because there's been a massive increase of individuals right at the labor line. Last I counted, I think I emailed Al on Monday, and I counted upwards of 40, 50 individuals underneath just a single tarp. That was like when it was raining, but it's died down a bit to a cool 30 plus individuals over there. But us in CityNet, we've been trying to engage with them, refer them out to warming centers. But to be frank, it's a little bit difficult to parse out who's just there for labor and who's just there and who's there for who's actually homeless and are able to really, take advantage of all the resources that we're offering.
Odin, can we pause there for a second? The labor line, the individuals at the labor line, it's a couple decade long issue. But I'm curious, just in terms of the response, the engagement, are there services like Department of Social Services, Workforce Development, Library on the Go? Like there's a level of need, a variation of need, right? Is what you're saying. Are there things in terms of what you're engaging with, information, openness, or lack thereof? Could you share a little bit more about what those conversations have been like?
Sure thing, yeah. So far, it's just rapport building. A lot of them, especially, when I'm not there with the Spanish speaking person, it's just a little bit hard to engage with them because they can see me, but they don't, but because, I'm Filipino, they see me and they're expecting me to speak Spanish or something like that, but I don't quite have that proficiency. So it's a little bit hard of that cultural barrier going on. But when we do have the Spanish-based outreach going on, we refer them out to, we just talk to them and see what their needs are. Most of the time, they're just kind of there to work, they have a place to go, and then okay, there's not much we can do with that sort of thing because technically they're not homeless. But if they are, then we refer them out to the neighborhood navigation centers to come in and just talk with homeless service providers, and especially with like Good Samaritans, like diversionary services, especially some of them, if like, let's say they're undocumented or like there's just like strong language barrier. We do have those resources available. It's just that it's not quite, not quite a master of that sort of thing as much as like say CityNet or Good Samaritan.
Catherine, is there any capacity with the Neighborhood Navigation Center there on Wednesdays to work with clients that are housing insecure and not necessarily unsheltered? First question. And second question for us, I know that we have the Spanish language NNC cards, but really spreading the word that it's not just for unsheltered folks. I mean, we do have resources in terms of homelessness prevention, and other things, and again, not even calling it that, but additional resources that we want to really promote the NNCs beyond our unsheltered folks. But is there capacity there on Wednesdays?
Yeah, we have been seeing a lot more uptick in individuals from the labor line at the NNC on Wednesdays.
Okay.
So I definitely think that Odin and Outreach are making
it
known that that's a resource that's available. I do think, though, to your point, like we could probably in our NNC RAP talk to providers about being more intentional about approaching those individuals, because I think right now they kind of just go for the meal, and I think with the language barrier, trying to understand some of the resources that are available there. So that is something that we can work on with the providers to, just to be more intentional about it, and making sure that if we have someone that's Spanish speech, I can't talk this morning, Spanish speaking, that they can maybe do some outreach at the NNC there to those individuals as they're having their meal, and just check in with them and see if that's a connection that they can make.
We also have a question in the chat. This may be for all PATH staff, but Natasha was asking why there appears to be an increase in people congregating in front of PATH, more people, bicycles, etc.
With that, I want to touch on at the very, very end. That'll circle into solution building. But going off into, let's see, where was I? Back on general updates in and around what PATH has been doing with regards to outreach. Later this afternoon, we'll be transporting one of my clients up to the Salvation Army to assist in, trying to get them into an intake system, getting her security, sobriety, and to facilitate in her reconnecting with her faith, because that's one of the strongest things that that's been driving her towards like her sobriety or that sort of thing. Additionally, it's a little bit of an exciting time right now because I'm currently in the housing navigation portion with two of my clients in the program. They've saved up, they're doc ready, they're sober, and one of them actually has a housing voucher. All they need now is just to rent a reasonable apartment, and they'll be ready to be housed. But to assure our neighboring businesses, I've been reporting any and all illegal activity that I see during my outreach rounds. And touching back on Natasha's question, what I've noticed is that now that all of the encampments in and around the area have been kind of cleared out and swept out by the city, there's been a little more congregation towards PATH because we do have those inclement weather beds open, where they were open from the weekend all the way up until Wednesday, and now they've been entered in, exited out, and then they just kind of stay there to wait until the bed opens up again. Those beds open up again. But what we've been doing, at least what I've been trying to do, is refer them out to other freedom warming centers, in addition to not just move them along, push them out to the side, but actually give them a solution to what they've been looking for, and that's just warmth in the cold, warmth and away shelter from the elements. So I've just been handing out those flyers, me in conjunction with CityNet, to try and just move them, to those other places that do have those kinds of capacity, because we only have 11 beds, but there's a lot more people out there. So.
Shannon, did you want to jump in there?
Yeah, thank you, Catherine, and thanks, Odin. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Shannon Bruner, I'm the director of programs for PATH Santa Barbara. I don't think I've been on the Eastside RAP meeting for a year. So some of you might not know who I am, but like as Odin said, we have the inclement weather beds and our requirements are different from the warming centers. So our requirement is that we open when it's 50% chance of rain or higher, which the warming centers have that requirement, but we also have to open if it's 40 degrees or lower, whereas the warming centers, it's 35 degrees or lower. So we've been open the past week because of the temperature, which the warming centers will not open for that temperature because it has to go to 35 below 35 degrees or lower. And we are working on expanding our winter shelter beds. It won't be anywhere near the 50 or the 100 that we have before, but we're working on a plan, hopefully for the next time we have winter shelter that we can offer more beds. And also I want to mention a recent success that Odin didn't mention. Odin had been working with a couple that he met through street outreach, which was he was able to get them referred into our rapid rehousing program. But one of the individuals meets the level of permanent supportive housing. So now that they have a housing opportunity, they've been entered into our permanent supportive housing program. And they'll be moving into an apartment next week. And I think Odin just started engaging with them towards the end of September. So that's going to be less than 2 months from the street to permanent supportive housing.
Wow, that's amazing. Great job, Odin.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you guys, seriously.
And I'm wondering, with the limited capacity that you have right now with the warming shelter beds that you have, are you unfortunately having to turn folks away during those times? Like, how many people are you seeing hoping to enter?
So we were open last night and we've been open for about 11 beds. Sometimes we've had like 13 people show up and we were able to make room. But last night we were open for the 11 beds and we only had 7 people show up.
Okay.
Yeah, so we didn't even have people for the, we're looking at maybe 30 is what we're looking at. So,
okay.
But we were open for 11 and we only had 7 people show up last night. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just another resource too for outreach, I guess, to make sure that, especially these nights that have been consistently cold, making sure that you're sharing that resource with the general community around PATH and on the east side, so they're aware of it. Well, thank you, Odin, for that update. We now have CityNet and Good Samaritan that have been able to join us. So if CityNet, if you want to go ahead and give us an update on your efforts recently on the east side and kind of just what some interactions that you're having, what you're seeing, any trends, any needs that you're seeing.
Yeah, of course. Good morning, everybody. This is Christina with CityNet. Yeah, I mean, first of all, that's huge, Odin, huge congrats. It's been really, really successful doing our Spanish outreach together. One of the interactions we had during our collaborative outreach, we got to reconnect with somebody who's currently on one of the City of SB beds at PATH. We have been trying to get a hold of him, but he let us know that his phone has been out of service recently. However, the really good news is that he gave us an update on his court date, and he actually just needs to complete a community service course online, granted by the judge. And then once that's completed, he'll be able to relocate back and be reconnected with family in Miami. So we are really, really excited for him and really grateful to assist him in that positive relocation. And he's just really excited to get back home. So we're really grateful that we were able to even place him on one of the City of SB beds and ensure that he's safely indoors for the time being. And even when we were there with Odin, he was telling us like, yeah, you guys are like angels sent from above. You came out of nowhere to get me indoors, and he was so grateful and appreciative and had nothing but great things to say about Path and his time there. So yeah, that's been one of our most recent successes. And yeah, just we're continuing working across like the labor line region. Yeah, we were there earlier this week. And yeah, today we're gonna go towards the bird refuge area, which is technically still somewhat along the east side. So we'll be there this afternoon. That's it for my updates right now.
Yeah, and then I just want to jump in and give the update. I'm not sure if we had this already on, just for the last area and walk that we had within the same area. We were able to place 2 more individuals in those beds just through our walks. So any of the walks that come available, hopefully most of you guys are able to attend those. It's connecting with the community, with the businesses, with residents in all the areas. So when we do that, we had 2 really good outcomes, because obviously we're doing outreach at the same time. So our team was able to connect with some individuals, and with these beds available, being able to get them indoors, one working, and getting into the Salvation Army. So these walks are very important to us as a community. So please join, so you can see the work being done, which is the biggest thing that anyone from the community or business or residents living in the area, being able to see those interactions and the work that our staff does is so important, especially when the beds come available. But once again, on another meeting, and I'm so happy to say just the work that we're doing with Path and Odin, and the collaboration to be able to connect the beds and the individuals on multiple areas has been a success as of late. So it's greatly appreciated.
We hadn't discussed the walkabouts yet. That's later on the agenda, but we will be talking about wanting to incorporate more of those in the new year for the East Side, because yes, they have been very successful, both for outreach and for business engagement. So thank you for bringing that up, Al. Anais, Good Samaritan, if you're able to give us a brief update on your efforts for the East Side waterfront area.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning and happy Friday. We are continuing to go out in this area, although, like I said in previous meetings, there are specific areas that are definitely sitting at territory, so we want to stay out of those areas. We've been really focusing this week to try to focus on referrals to the Salvation Army new program. They have quite a couple beds that we're trying to fill. I think at this point, we have about 12 referrals that we've been trying to get in. We've gotten several people in. I've referred about 3 other people yesterday, so we're waiting on those responses. 4 people already have intakes scheduled, either on the phone or in person. So we're just really trying to transition as many people that fit that criteria into this space. And so they have a couple not boundaries, but different qualifications to go in there. So that has been interesting to be able to navigate which clients we can place into those places. I'd like to focus on a lot of the women that are outside, so that's been a big one. Santa Barbara team has been really doing Goleta, IV, Santa Barbara, the waterfront, all that good stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate that update.
There's a question in the chat, Catherine, regarding Good Sam.
Yeah, and Anais can jump in and also explain, but a lot of the region around Path specifically is along the 101 corridor and the railroads tracks, which is primarily contracted to CityNet. That's the SURF contract. It's a countywide initiative to focus on the 101 corridor. And so that's where Good Samaritan is not necessarily going into those areas. But everywhere else where CityNet isn't necessarily focusing on is where Good Samaritan is augmenting their schedule to support.
Yeah, and with that, like I said, just in support of just all our teams and on the East, and then, like I said, luckily for the community, all the areas are covered. So that's the beautiful part between the organizations. And like I said, especially with Anais and I, we have good communication where we're able to, if there's anything that's in between, we're able to communicate and gather that information for the community. So you guys get the support that's necessary.
Yes, there's.
This is also a way of preventing.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say it's also a way of preventing duplication of efforts because we don't want the same case managers talking to the same people and the same outreach staff talking to the same people over and over. We want to use their time.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of areas that need to be covered. So it's the benefit of having multiple teams now. And they are communicating tremendously offline in between calls. And, as you've heard, they go out together on a regular basis as well and support each other. So it's been great collaboration so far.
Yeah, and one thing, just to jump on what Anna used to saying, if you guys aren't familiar with the Salvation Army and what we have to work with as in this industry, work with the clients trying to get them into shelter. They're non-congregate shelters, so they're individual rooms with there's a couple of them that are just in one person room, and there's a couple that are in two. So with those, their focus is on vulnerable individuals with chronic health conditions or persons over 55 years of age. So if you aren't familiar with how those beds work, that's the primary focus for those rooms. So we have to, between Good Sam and, Odin when he gets out there, and then with CityNet, that's what we're looking for, individuals that fit that criteria for those rooms.
New graffiti under the bridge.
I'm sorry, Natasha, can you say that again?
I'll hold off until later.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Those are our updates from outreach and all of their efforts. And I mean, it just sounds like the regional coverage has improved tremendously, and just the work that's being done from everyone and the collaboration, and then all of the successes with street exits. So thank you all for the continued work to support the East Side.
Hey, Catherine, do you want an update on De La Guerra Street? I had a special request from this meeting last time to spend some time on De La Guerra.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I didn't see you were on the call. Thank you, Deborah. Deborah is with Safe Parking.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I didn't have the opportunity to speak with as many people but people responded to the cards I left, and I know that a lot of people did move their vehicles. There is a gentleman there now in a motorhome, and he is going to be scheduling an intake with Safe Parking. But I did find that there are two vehicles there that are definitely abandoned, and I don't know who's responsible for those. Like, they're just covered in dirt and cobwebs and leaves and stuff. So I got those into Fulcrum, hoping that somebody would respond to those. They're parked right on the back side of the junior high school. And then there's one gray vehicle with a couple in it that I'm still haven't been able to get them to communicate with me. But other than that, it was looking much better on Wednesday than it was the previous week. So if there's any other areas that you want us to check, just, let me know.
Is there any update on Dwight Murphy? Have you been able to go there and just kind of what that's been looking like?
Yeah, and I guess, again, because I think that I'm making contact with people, but somebody had reached out and said that they could give me a better, you had, that maybe we could plan something out there later in the day, because when I'm there in the mornings, I probably run into 5 vehicles, and one of them actually did come in and enroll in our program from when I was there the 2 weeks ago. And a couple of them are making a lot of progress so they can enroll. But yeah, that, I wanted to try your idea of a later time in the day. Somebody can just give me an idea of what that might look like. So when I get there, I can find the most people.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely work on that. Well, thank you for that update. And it sounds like, I mean, you're definitely being able to connect with people on the east side, which I know we have a large population of vehicular homeless. So thank you for that. And hopefully you'll continue to be able to enroll people.
And Catherine, I just want to add, our neighborhood improvement task force is prioritizing Dwight Murphy in terms of response. We're going to be doing a site visit there next month and outlining, things like signage, some kind of natural barriers and otherwise to kind of mitigate the impacts to that region. We also need to plan for renovations to the park that start later next year that will displace all of the vehicles at that location. So we really want to get ahead of Deborah and her team doing outreach and letting people know like they should really embrace and accept services through the safe parking program because they are going to be eventually displaced from that area. So there's other things that we can do to try to identify additional spaces for a safe parking program in and around that location and work together. And I know a year feels like a long time away, but it's not. I think all of us recognize that. So we just really want to get ahead of any shifts that happen to the park in the short term, and then those longer term shifts that are going to happen as well.
And that's actually really helpful
Mm,
information
yeah.
because we just assisted in the county lot over here that had to be cleared, and every single person was removed to a better place without
Yeah.
any problems. And it was very helpful knowing that there was kind of a drop dead date,
That's great. Okay.
because, so yeah, that's good information. Maybe I can get a little bit more about it, because it's nice to say,
Yeah.
hey, there's this park restoration project coming up, something,
Something to
that,
motivate people to engage.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Deborah.
Great. And we can definitely support Deborah with you getting that information, and then maybe trying to coordinate a large outreach effort in Dwight Murphy with safe parking and maybe some other providers as well.
Sounds great. And I think I might need to let you guys know that our office is closed from the week between Christmas and New Year's. So if you aren't hearing from us, that's why. But I will have the emergency phone.
Okay.
So thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually thank you for saying that, Deborah. Kind of leads me. I have a lot of staff taking vacation next week, but obviously feel free to reach out to me, and then I'll give the staff throughout the week that is available for any outreach concerns in the community.
Thank you. All right, so now we can move on from outreach updates to city update regarding some strategies or plannings to support the businesses and the east side area. Barbara, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, the conversation was really specific to the businesses in the region. So I don't want to share too many details just in terms of the dialogue. I just want to acknowledge that, from the mayor's perspective all the way down, supporting our local businesses, especially family-owned businesses that are multi-generational, is a top priority, and really trying to address both what they're seeing in terms of impacts to their day-to-day business, as well as the vulnerability we're seeing in the region overall. So there have been different approaches and strategies already in play, and there has been noticeable improvement in the region. So I want to say to the PATH team that the businesses that we did meet with, the Ramirez family, Marburg businesses, they did acknowledge that the last couple of weeks they've seen that improvement. So I just, again, am reiterating that all of the work that PD has done, the sharing information between PATH and PD, businesses like Marburg and Ramirez with PD have really made a difference in that region. There's a couple of strategies from incentivizing trash cleanup and pickup. We met with the Clean SB team and PATH to maybe cover a day of the week and have regular consistent pickups that, again, have incentives associated with them so that people are helping clean up the region, and then obviously getting some financial support because of that. So there's things that we are putting in play to try to manage that. And I will say, we had a very interesting conversation with the Neighborhood Improvement Task Force this week, with really creative ideas about attracting folks to different parts of the region that would be less impactful to the businesses. And so we are really putting everything we can on the whiteboard, and really pushing it forward before we get that hard no. So things like even making the labor line more comfortable for people to frequent, and that we can use that as a location where services could be delivered, right? Are there areas around even that lower kind of Sisseq area in Alisos? Again, that impact has been noticeably improved around the Sisseq and Alisos corridor, but then we're having, you know, that area kind of being pushed for a pass. So we have been able to make good strides, but we have to keep going. And so I just want to let people know that that region continues to be the top priority for us. It's not path focused. This is the city needs to prioritize our resources to address all of the impacts to the region. It happens to be a cross section of what we're dealing with nationwide, right? Homelessness, economic insecurity, the opioid epidemic, people preying on the most vulnerable in terms of drug use and sales. And so it really is acknowledging that, yes, PATH is a low barrier shelter that we absolutely need in our community. And there are some impacts as the result of that in terms of people going in and out, the flow of folks. But a lot of the individuals in that region are not PATH clients. And so I just want, again, to communicate to everyone here, please reach out to me and other city staff and departments, because it is just as much our responsibility to address that region as it is the facilities that are located there. There was also a couple of ideas mentioned around the CUP, as well as security, more enforcement in that area to complement the outreach work that's happening. So we have a couple of ideas, again, circulating to try to pursue that and support security measures in the area as well. So nothing is done or checked off. I think we're just reiterating the strategies that have proven to be successful and adding more and complementing more to that. So I'll have more updates in the future, but things are in process, and I just really appreciate both the cooperation from the business owners in the region as well as the cooperation from PATH.
Thank you, Barbara, for that. And then I'll also add, because you mentioned the CUP, I have spoken with PATH, and part of their CUP is having regular presentations to the group. And so for the new year, we have that schedule where PATH will be presenting more officially, right? They're always updating us on their efforts, which is great. But for their official presentations, they will be presenting every other month on the second meeting of the month. And those will be recorded as normal or as usual. So we just wanted to share that with you, and that new schedule will begin in the new year. Okay, so now we can move to the RAP restructure that we have been implementing in other regions as well. So for the waterfront and State Street recently, we have been incorporating a lot of walkabouts that we are looking to incorporate here on the east side as well. And they've served two purposes, where we've broken up into two groups, where one is focused on outreach. So as we're walking in whichever site location we're going to, as we encounter individuals that are unsheltered, outreach will engage, we'll stop with them, engage, have that conversation, make that connection of trying to get them connected to those resources. Maybe they're already working with them, and it's just a reconnection that they're making in that moment. And then the other group, as we continue to walk along, we tend to identify businesses that we want to check in with and hear from them about the impacts that they're seeing on their business. Just hearing from them, how is it going? What impacts are they seeing? Is there, how can we loop in PD if there's things that are going on, and just getting their feedback. So then later on, we can work with outreach to support those areas as well. And having that walk kind of in that formation with the two groups has proven to be really successful. As Al mentioned, CityNet was able to place 2 individuals from our previous walk into shelter. So it's really working in terms of engaging individuals with the ultimate goal to get them off the streets and into shelter, so then they can start that case management process, being connected to all those resources and hopefully getting housed down the line. And we've just gotten really positive feedback from business owners, as well as being really grateful for us being there, checking in with them, and helping deploy resources to the areas that they're seeing the most need in. So we're really looking forward to incorporating those on the east side in the new year, and kind of looking to you all to maybe feedback on how often we want to have those walks for your participation. And so, yeah, I don't, if there's feedback on how those structure that, how that, those walk structures, how that sounds, or any insight onto how frequent you would like to see those as well.
So for us, once on that subject, and we were talking about, I think, like I said, it's a huge part, and we've talked about it before. I know with Catherine, I talked about it with Liz, just the connection between the businesses and the outreach teams. So our case managers, or even myself, when we get out there, to me was a disconnect from, like, for example, Natasha contacts us, or a business contacts us, or myself and our outreach team goes out there. We connect with the individual usually, and then at that point, either try to move them along, get them into shelter. And that's kind of been the ending point until these meetings where we kind of give updates. The next step of that is getting, like, our outreach team connect with a front desk person at a hotel, or with someone in the business, just to follow up. So one thing I would like to bring to the table, and just to talk about in the future, is if even if I'm able to do with my team, where it's once a month, where we kind of do some community outreach more towards just the businesses, right? But we're not just going to connect with individuals, where our staff is able to take a day out of the month from their workflow to go connect with the Eastside businesses, just to say, hey, hi, my name is Christina, I work with CityNet, we do outreach in your area, etc. So we can start building that connection, so that they not only know who to reach out to, but obviously we know who to contact and go say hi to after we provide the service for them with these individuals. So now the community, when we have these meetings, or they come back with concerns, they're not only coming with concerns, but they're actually coming back and say, hey, oh yeah, Christina, Al, they stopped by, they did help move the individual on, or they helped him get housed. So we're starting to build that connection. So that's one thing I would like to bring to the table. And hopefully more business owners and people get on these calls, so that we know who to go to reach out to from there, or business or community, to start building that connection. So that's one thing I've thought about just for our team, just to start building that connection. But it's something we can work. It's a thought right now, but it's something we can hopefully maybe bring to fruition in the future.
Yeah, I like that idea. Very similar to the kind of the way the walks have been structured now, of having that separate group, but oh yeah, Natalia, you want to?
Hi, good morning, and good morning, everyone. Okay, for you, Catherine, in regards to these walkabouts, you said it was, I'm making some notes, CityNet, and who else will consist of these walkabouts?
So for outreach, we have usually all of the outreach providers. So we'll have CityNet, Good Samaritan, and then because this is on the east side, we'll have PATH, Odin being present.
Okay. I think that's a great idea. And I think as a business owner, I would definitely like to see this outreach weekly, at least once, twice a week, because there are always issues here, especially, everywhere here on the east side, but I'm on the corridor with there's just a lot of issues here. So I'll just leave it with that.
Yes. So Natalie, just with that, do provide, Natalia, I'm sorry.
No worries.
We do provide weekly outreach to the east side community. It's usually, like I said, Monday we do Milpas, Wednesday we do like the waterfront, which is a little bit off the area. But within those day periods, Tuesday we have our Salesforce day, where any community concerns, and I believe there's a link on there that you can go add into that if there's any throughout the week, that we go touch and take care of those community concerns throughout the week. But along that, like I said, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll send you the number in the link. Actually, I think I already have your number saved. So reach out to me, and then I can get our teams out there on those concerns throughout the week. But we do provide weekly.
But it's all, oh, I apologize for the interruption, Al, but it's only, okay, weekly, it's once a week, right? Correct? Your team, and you said from my notes in our last meeting, you said you start at, is it Kentucky Fried Chicken and all the way down, correct?
Yeah. And like, if there's anything further up, where's your business located?
400 block?
400 block. Yeah. So we should, like I said, we'll cover the whole area, but that's usually where we start off. We haven't got too much concerns. But definitely, like I said, that's just the one day that we designate that we look to make time specific for your area, because we have multiple areas throughout the city.
Sure.
But we designate, but I always want you to feel free to reach out in between those days, Monday through Friday. It would be best before noon, but obviously the concerns come at all times, because usually 2-3 o'clock, our staff starts working their way back to the office, because we still have the, our ISPs, our case notes, case management stuff, documents to upload, all that other stuff that comes along with it. So it's a little more difficult in the later afternoon. By 3:30, 4 o'clock, our team starts to go home. So in the later afternoon, that our staff is usually unavailable, but please feel free to reach out anytime during the week with these concerns.
Oh, no, I most certainly will. You can count on it. And, and my next question to you, Al, is, so after your team is done for the day, there's no other coverage anywhere here, not only on the corridor, but anywhere here in the district? What happens after 4 o'clock?
There isn't coverage in terms of homelessness outreach and case management. There is not. So what we're trying to do as a city, and Liz Stott's released an RFP, and we have one response to that RFP so far this week. We are extending night to night and weekend outreach Thursday, Friday, Saturday from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. But that's specific to the downtown corridor and the waterfront from Chase Plum Park to Pershing Park. So this will be the first time that we'll have coverage in the late afternoon and evenings from homeless outreach services in general. So it is a pilot to see in terms of the impact. Is it positive in regards to supporting PD from calls that are related to people experiencing homelessness, as well as our ability to respond to business owners that can call into a number and report incidents that they're seeing during that time frame, and the ability of the team to respond, de-escalate, and support those individuals that are experiencing what they're experiencing in that time period. So we're hoping, if it's successful, that we would be able to get more resources to expand that coverage to other parts of the city, as well as other days of the week.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks to
Thank
both
you.
of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. Thank you for that support, Barbara, on that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even after hours, or even, please still send me those requests, because we can follow up on them, next business day. With that, and I hate to say it, but those are the times that at this point, if it's something a little bit more concerning, with our partners and friends over there at PD, that'd probably be something, for them to hopefully follow up on if the time is. So Charlie might want to jump in on that. But yeah, the after hours, either way, send me the referral or the request so we can help follow up on it. And if PD does have to respond, we have a good communication with them, or they reach out to me or let me know maybe how they went, if they were able to make it out there. And then from there, say, they usually let us know, hey, Al, we stopped by, we got this concern. Usually I get the concern as well. Then we'll follow up with that updated information.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks again.
I also want to just kind of separate out the day-to-day homelessness outreach services that we have, and what Catherine was speaking to in terms of like an all hands on deck RAP oriented walkabout. We've called them like walkthroughs, walkabout, site visits. We actually started the walks on the east side several months ago. We've been prioritizing the downtown corridor, and we did a West Beach walk, again, just because of the impacts that we're seeing in that region. But I will say, Natalia, even doing that once a month, to show, one, our mayor and police chief have prioritized these walks. We have every outreach provider with us. We have a lot of city staff with us as well. And the SB Act team facilitates that. One, it demonstrates that the region is a priority for everyone in the city, and shows people that we are all there to care, reach out, hear concerns, and be able to address them. But it also has been very valuable from my perspective, and that we're really capturing a by name list of people that we need to prioritize outreach in that region. We have limited capacity throughout. So if we can say these are our top 6 individuals in the Milpas corridor, and there's a hyper focus on those individuals, connecting, addressing gaps in some of their continuum of care or services, or they've been with multiple agencies and haven't been successful in those agencies, what's the next step or what's the next strategy? And we're able to talk in real time with multiple providers about what their experience has been in engaging with that individual. So it's been both beneficial for the business outreach and addressing concerns, but also service providers working together, addressing our most chronic individuals. And sometimes engaging with new folks, which again is a different set of strategies, but ones that we can easily deploy for individuals that are new to the area as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that, Barbara. Thank you.
I know we're a little bit on time, but I think to what Barbara was just mentioning in this RAP restructure, so the other component that we've implemented in the other regions for State Street and Waterfront is our Zoom RAP of how that's facilitated. And so I wanted to bring that to the group and just get your feedback of whether this is something that we want to do here for the East Side. But starting in the new year, for State Street and Waterfront specifically, the RAP call, so the Zoom 1-hour call, is going to be restructured into 2 portions. The first half hour of the portion of the meeting is an open session. So as always, business owners, residents that want to participate are able to join the call, and that's when they give us feedback, areas of concern, individuals that they want us to be connected to, any trends that they're seeing, just really hearing the feedback about what they're seeing in the region. And then to kind of piggyback on the efforts that happen on the walks, the second portion would be a closed session with the providers to be able to continue the conversation about the engagement that took place on the walks, what we need to do to coordinate better, to have outreach, make those connections, essentially case conferencing, really talking about the individuals. And so that session would need to be closed because of privacy and confidentiality. But we're really hoping that will just really allow us to better engage and coordinate with individuals on the streets to have better outcomes and successes with them. Because, in these meetings, as much as we're discussing the need, a lot of the collaboration that we need to be doing doesn't necessarily take place the way that we would like, or the way that it would be most impactful. So again, it would be, the call would be in 2 portions. The first part, an open session with business owners, residents, the usual general community. The second portion would be closed for providers, specific city staff, for us to continue the dialogue around how we can support the region and just more specific in collaboration. And so that is something we're implementing for the State Street and Waterfront, and we're hoping to bring that to the East Side as well. So any feedback or questions about that model? Natasha, I see your hand up.
Honestly, I don't know that we'd need a whole hour. We can spend 15, 20 minutes letting you know what's going on, and I don't know. So what I wanted to bring up is we've got the 7-Eleven, which is closed on Milpas, and I'm beginning to see shopping carts and a real mess starting to pile up there. 7-Eleven left a big mess. It was really awful. I walked down around the path area yesterday, which goes to my earlier comment. I guess we're not talking about funding, so all of the congregating that's happening at the front of path is accumulating again. I did notice by the freeway, a guy had camped out, and I think that was you, Odin, talking to him this yesterday morning, because he had a bunch of stuff strung up on the fence. There's a lot of trash under the underpass. which told me they'd been sleeping overnight. But by the time I arrived, the trash was left, but no people. And then on the off ramp going south, there's again a shopping cart and a bunch of stuff starting to accumulate by the side of the off ramp and the fence. So I guess it's just consistent and persistent. And then the other thing is you guys do your swoop down Milpas. I'd really like to encourage you to just stop at the liquor stores. Because I mean, I don't always see a whole lot of stuff happening, but as you hit like the 400 block, as Natalia mentioned, you start seeing more activity. It's less higher up, but I think if you just kind of made a concerted point of liquor stores, we'll kind of go by, check that out. I think you'll do a great deed in helping us with some of the challenges we're having here. Thank you.
Thanks, Natasha. I remember Charlie and I had a good conversation with Crown Liquors, which is a family-owned business too, and they're dealing with a lot of impacts, and they have a lot of concerns as well. But you're right to target those areas, engage, and make sure that they're connected and they know who to report to, and where they can get assistance. I appreciate you bringing that. And Joelle, can you just confirm in the chat? I know that area is prioritized for multiple cleanings throughout the week. I know we mentioned the items accruing again in the locations that Natasha mentioned. I just wanted you to confirm that your team is on it per usual for that.
Yes, they will be there within the hour, and they will also go on Monday after the rain.
Great. Thank you so much.
And just to touch base from an outreach perspective, our team CityNet, we were actually just there, the liquor store that's right next to the CVS on Milpas. We were there on Tuesday. So yeah, we are aware of the liquor store impacts like you were mentioning, Natasha. So we will continue to make an effort to just stop by more regularly. But thank you so much for bringing that up.
And potentially with this RAP restructure, right? If we get that feedback, that's the second portion where just providers are coordinating and discussing their efforts. That's something that we can incorporate into the discussion about, you know, how can we go make sure that outreach is going to the liquor stores more frequently, kind of creating a little schedule for that area, and have consistent follow-up. So that's why we're hoping that this restructure will be more impactful in the long run, with just making sure that, you know, we're being more strategic with our efforts. So any other questions about the restructure? Any other feedback?
Yeah, I'm just actually curious, is the purpose of having the closed session just basically to discuss confidential information about individuals that you guys are sharing, but you don't want to make it public to the public? Is that basically
Yes,
my understanding correct?
We can't make a certain level of information available to the public.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we want to get that, and Natasha, you said it perfectly. It's like that first 20 to 30 minutes, hear from you guys. Hey, there's a bump up in activity here. We're seeing this, this, and this. And then you sign off as the members of the public. And then we're all talking about one across city departments, how we can address the hotspots that were raised or the continued hotspots in our activity, as well as individuals of concern in the region. And I do want to separate out the illegal activity, PD enforcement, as well as the homelessness outreach and services. So those again require different strategies. We want to be able to touch on all of that during the call, but just letting everyone know that we're really trying to define those lanes in terms of dealing with overall impacts and needs in the region.
Okay, so would that be changing the way we're doing these meetings on every other Friday?
I don't think so, in terms of we usually cover those topics in general, but it just gives a 30-minute window for provider specific check-ins. So we're in constant communication with each other, but we're finding that, hey, if we're all in the RAP, let's use that time to connect about a couple of individuals that are being prioritized for outreach.
So maybe if you've got a dedicated, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes
Yeah,
to businesses and
absolutely.
people in the area, and just, you know, allowing us to report what we've seen or where we're noticing things. I don't think we need a full hour to do that kind of reporting.
Okay. Yeah. And so I think we'll just have Catherine keep reiterating, like, hey, as residents and business owners, if you could show up at the top of the hour, right, to share those concerns and information, questions that you have, and then folks can kind of drop off as we go into that provider specific. So we'll keep reiterating that as we start the new schedule next year. And then Natalia, I also just want to highlight you in terms of your engagement and relationships with the business owners along the corridor. What has been successful for our past walkabouts is Catherine has reached out to a business lead prior to our walks to highlight a couple of businesses that you've been hearing from in terms of questions and concerns that we're specifically stopping at those businesses during our walk to, again, be able to address that as well. So we can work with you in advance to just make that as fruitful and productive as possible.
Okay. Yeah, as Barbara said.
Yeah, Natalia, did Natalia sign off? I'll follow up with the email with her.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. We're just about to hit the 11 o'clock mark. So there are no other questions or concerns about that restructure, then we will go ahead and start that in the new year. And, you know, of course, you know, the first portion will still be us updating you too on our efforts and outcomes. And then if there are any major presentations that we need to present to you all, that'll, you know, that could go into the full hour. It won't necessarily just be a hard stop at the half hour. Always, if we need to present more information, or just depending on what the conversation entails. So if there are any other questions, you know, you can always email me. My email is in the agenda, or you all receive my emails. So feel free to reach out with any of those questions or concerns. And then just general updates really quick before we jump off. Next week on Wednesday, December 21st, at 6 p.m. at the courthouse, we have the longest night. And that is a ceremony where we honor individuals that have passed away in the recent year while living on the street or sheltered before they were able to make it home. So it's a beautiful ceremony to be a part of. If you haven't already attended in the past, I highly encourage you to attend. Other update, in January 25th, which is also a Wednesday from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., we have our point in time count. And I sent out that email to you all yesterday, so you should have a flyer and the link to sign up. But it is the point in time count where we go out and try to identify all of the individuals that are unsheltered. And the point in time count is a HUD requirement. So it is our responsibility to make sure that we cover all the geographical area throughout Santa Barbara County. So we really need and encourage people to sign up to volunteer to participate in that. The more people that we have, the better coverage that we'll have. And ultimately, it'll impact the funding that we receive down the line and our ability to expand or create new programs to support our unsheltered population. So please share within your networks, friends, families, sign up if you're able to. It's also a great activity to be a part of and go out with the group and just help us with these efforts. Any other questions or anything that you have, you can always reach out to me. And that is all for today. All right, well, thank you all. Appreciate you being here. Happy Friday. I hope you have a good rest of your day and good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Catherine.